Thank you so much, and good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm the Executive Director of Housing Choices. We focus on creating affordable housing opportunities for people with developmental disabilities. You've heard stories from two parents who live here in Cupertino about the housing needs of their adult children with developmental disabilities, and I wanted to share some of the data with you. And so I have brought a handout, which I'll leave with the staff to give you a sense of what's going on in Cupertino with respect to this need. According to the California Department of Developmental Services, Cupertino is home to 325 people with developmental disabilities, and of whom 122 are adults. Of the adult population, the number is too small for the state to even report on how many have their own place to live. It's fewer than 11. You met someone tonight who has their own place to live, but the total number of adults with developmental disabilities who have a place to live here in Cupertino is under 11. So where are these folks living? Well, 86 or 70% of the adults are living at home with aging parents. And so as the parents age and their own needs grow more complex, that housing solution becomes more and more unstable, and it also doesn't address the need and the goal for living independently. The need for affordable housing for this population has grown dramatically in the 20 years since you first took a look at the issue. And the reason is because beginning in the mid-1980s, we saw a steady increase year over year in the number of people diagnosed with autism. That number has grown every year since the mid-80s, right up until 2016, when we began to see a leveling out. So you see a large population of people under 18 who are coming along, and they really represent that growth in the autism diagnosis. Another reason we're seeing so many more people who need housing is that our folks are having longer lifespans. And so more and more we're seeing adults with developmental disabilities in their 30s, 40s, and 50s living at home with parents in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. As Janet Van Zuren, the first speaker, mentioned, Housing Choices has demonstrated the success of supporting people to live on their own in typical affordable housing. What we need are units set aside for people who are extremely low income. Many of our clients work, but they're working at very low incomes. And those who are not able to work are receiving SSI, and a typical SSI award, fixed income, is under $900 a month. So we need more housing for the population, and we need it to be targeted to people with developmental disabilities because they need support throughout the housing application process, and then they need services once they get into an apartment to live successfully. All those services are funded here in California by the Department of Developmental Services through an organization called the Regional Center. So there are services aplenty for people to live successfully on their own, but there's no assistance to pay for the cost of housing. We've seen success in many different cities who've worked on this issue. More than 90% of the residents in our partner properties where people are living integrated in typical affordable housing retain their housing for 5 or more years. And when surveyed, they all report that they're happier and more independent when they have their own place to live.
Thank you, Jen. Your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you to all three speakers.